Okay, this video is going to be on the militia. You can call it a MAG, a mutual assistance group. You can call it a number of different things. I've heard about them continuously from different people. And a lot of people have been talking about, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to have a revolution in this country, and everything else. Well, what I'm going to say is going to probably irritate some people, but deal with it. According to U.S. Code Chapter 13, 311, this is under Title 10, Subtitle A, Part 1. But anyways, Chapter 13, 311, Section A, states, the militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males at least 17 years of age and under 45 years of age who are or have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States. That means if you're here with a green card, if you're here on a work visa and you're trying to get your citizenship, you are the militia of the United States of America. You are not civilians. You are citizens. You have whether you realize it or not, federal law has said that being a citizen of this country, you are born a member of the militia. You are born a member of a component of the military reserve, whether you realize it or not, whether you are trained for it or not. And we, as the United States of America, are fortunate enough to have more guns in this country than anywhere else on the planet. And here's the thing about it. We're allowed to have these guns. We're not smuggling AKs across some desert like they do in Afghanistan or anything like that. We are actually allowed to have the firearms and stuff that we have because of our Second Amendment. Now, under 13311B, they further define the militia as two subcategories. One is the organized militia, which is the National Guard, and the naval militia. Two is the unorganized militia, which consists of militia who are not members of the National Guard or naval militia. Now, two says, back to my point with one, one being the National Guard and naval militia. Well, National Guard, I don't even think we have a naval militia in West Virginia. I think Ohio does, which patrols the rivers and stuff. But the National Guard and Naval Militia are military components trained by the federal government, which are under the jurisdiction and control of the governor of those states. We've had blizzards and a lot of other things here in West Virginia, and the governor has declared a national state of emergency during floods and during blizzards, stuff like that. I know in Tennessee, the governor there has declared national states of emergency to do so under and use National Guard troops to help with like tornadoes. North Carolina, when I lived down there, the governor had used National Guard to help clean up with hurricanes, stuff like that, to assist people during problems, catastrophes, stuff like that. They were used in Katrina because a state of emergency was declared by the governor of that state. Now, they aren't controlled by mayors or anything like that. It is the governor of the state who is the executive officer of the state. If the state was its own country, the governor would be the president. Okay, so you understand, he's the executive officer of the state government. Now, by this standard, according to the federal standard, it states that all members of the United States are of the militia. And well, since, Second Amendment says that in order to have, a militia, the individual right to keep and bear arms will not be infringed. I'm not looking at to get the exact words here for you. Well, basically it comes down to this. We are the militia. We, the citizens of the United States of America, are the militia. All of us. Now, this is one of the reasons I believe that all of us should have, or should be required to do at least 3 years in our military forces, either the Army or the Marine Corps, unless you got some really high testing degree and you're really technical and they need that in like the Air Force or the Navy. But to me, in my understanding of it, and I'm not a lawyer, don't take what I say as legal advice, Basically, here's the deal. We have a right to keep and bear arms because we are the militia of the free states. Uh, whether we are organized or not, whether we are against firearms or for firearms or whatever, the argument used to say that only the military and the police and the militia, since the militia is a reference to the National Guard, should therefore be the only ones to have guns, and we should ban guns from everyone in the country. I've heard that from a lot of liberals. Here's the problem: we are all the militia. The National Guard is just a chapter of the militia known as the organized militia, which is organized by the federal and state government. The rest of us can be called in at any point in time, and you may or may not realize it. We have a duty to defend our country. We have a duty to defend our lands. We have a duty to defend ourselves. Federal law gives us that right there. Now, I've seen a video on here. This is also going to carry into that by Army Redneck, and I agree with him. We don't. This country needs to change a lot, and there needs to be a lot of change in this country. But we don't need that change to come from an armed resistance. We don't need people out here shooting and killing and blowing stuff up. The fact of the matter is, a lot of the people you hear talking about an armed resistance actually come usually are more liberal than the conservatives are, simply because it's more towards people being more liberal or more of the liberal political spectrum, because the liberal side of the political spectrum during the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even up to today has been hijacked by a lot of communism and socialism. A lot of the ideas for revolution and stuff like that is used by communism to create insurrections and to keep people divided. You see a lot within the liberal culture. For the most part, it's liberals against conservatives, but when you look at the liberals, they're divided by ethnicity, by sexual orientation, and there's a few other things in there that are used. Usually it's ethnic, cultural guidelines, and sexual orientation are the major ones that keep them divided. The Latinos don't want to will support the blacks against the regular conservatives, but in the little liberal cliquish fashion, they stay away from the African Americans, and the same thing with African Americans staying away from white liberals, and it's a really twisted situation there. But it's a huge division within that altogether. Everybody's trying to get a bigger piece of the pie for themselves, and if in any conservative out there or anyone out there, I suggest you do read the Communist Manifesto. I do suggest you read Marxism and Leninism and everything else, but think of it like this: play a little game of Monopoly, and play that game of Monopoly applying what they're doing. Have someone to play the worker class and keep paying out to give them the advantage to get back up while you're trying to climb the ladder. It doesn't work. And the bank being, playing the role of the government, you got to make some modifications to the game, of course. I have to put some guidelines on here for it, but you can actually see in the model that it doesn't work. So when people are out here talking about the militia, I'm all for the militia movement. I'm all for people being trained to defend themselves. I'm all for people being trained to make the best of their abilities, whatever they are. I'm all for people organizing themselves. I'm all for people being armed. I mean, let's face it, criminals go after people they see as weak. It's kind of hard to victimize a weak person who is well armed, because for whatever physical weaknesses they have, whatever physical disadvantages they have, that ability to be well armed compensates, and it doesn't make them as weak as the criminal would like them to be. So yeah, it does. An armed society is a hell of a lot safer society than people realize. Now, well, I guess that basically explains it. Like I said, yeah.